Welcome to part 17 of this video series. Today we're going to be discussing hot water on your small liveaboard boat. And a special thanks to those of you who have already subscribed to my channel, and thank you for supporting the creation of this video series. If you haven't done so already, then please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos in this series. Let's face it, hot water is a luxury we all want, but there are those who decide to go without. I personally went without it for many years when I was younger, but now that I'm older and much more spoiled, I want the luxury of just simply turning on the tap and having a nice hot shower. Today I'll start with the absolute simplest systems, and I'll work my way up to the much more complicated and expensive systems. Okay, so the absolute simplest system is a basic kettle on the stove. I know that this seems a little too much like camping, but many an old salt have used this for generations, and it has worked for them. There are some things you can do to make this much more easy. For example, whenever you boil water, also fill a good quality thermos. This way, when you need a little bit of hot water later in the day, you don't have to boil more. And if you want to use heated water for a shower, mix hot water from the kettle with cold water in either a collapsible bucket and use one of these affordable battery-powered portable showers with it, or create a pressure sprayer shower. It's super affordable, simple, and super reliable. Another way to create hot water, especially for a shower, is using the sun. I know these can look a bit cheesy for lack of a better word, but they do work. I have used them while camping and it has actually gotten way too hot to use. I actually had to let it cool down a bit first. Most of the ones you see are the basic bag type, but I've seen lots of other options from commercial glass enclosed units to do-it-yourself versions like painting a drum black and mounting it to the deck. And solar showers can be portable or permanently plumbed in. There are even panel types that can be mounted under your photovoltaic solar panels, which cools the panels, making solar panels perform better and giving you hot water at the same time. If you have the type that's permanently plumbed in, then when you use your mixer faucet, you just adjust the temperature according to how hot the tank is. Now, there's two serious downfalls for using solar water heaters. The first one being they can take quite some time to heat up, and the second one being, if there's no sun, they don't work. Still, they can be incorporated into your system to complement your current hot water heater to save on fuel, etc. Something I should mention that's a little off topic is that if you have a self-bailing cockpit like on a typical sailboat, all you need is a pop-up privacy shelter and voila, you have a shower. The next type of water heater I'm going to talk about is electric. There are both 12-volt and household voltage models. Simply said, most small liveaboard boat batteries cannot handle the large loads required by these systems, especially not enough to keep a tank-style heater going 24 hours a day. However, some inboards have alternators large enough and some boats have generators that can be used to heat water while they're actually running. These are the simplest to permanently install, however not the ideal choice in most cases. This is because if it is the tank type, you cannot let it run 24 hours a day unless you have a massive battery bank. You first have to let it heat up, and some, like the 12-volt models, take a very long time to heat up. Now, there are electric instant hot water heaters. They do not have tanks, but they do require a very large amount of power while they're running. Most I have seen are either 120 or 240 volts. If you have a large inverter that can run off your boat's alternator, or if you have a decent-sized generator, then this might be the answer for you. However, you would need to start your motor or generator every time you want to take a shower. This can be annoying to other boaters if you're in a quiet anchorage. You could, however, run it off shore power if you're in a marina. The next option is propane. This is my least favorite option, mainly because the risk of using propane and the availability of it. If you permanently stay at a marina that has a propane service or you keep your own car at that marina, this isn't bad. But if you travel a lot, you'll find propane can be hard to come by in some areas. The tanks are heavy. Even the fiberglass and aluminum tanks weigh more than a jerry can filled with liquid fuel. Plus, taxi and rideshare services rarely allow them. There are some hot water heaters that can run on those small disposable cylinders, but the amount of propane they use means that you'll be changing the cylinders constantly. Not only is it bad for the environment, but it can be very expensive. Now, our next option is not cheap, but it is the most popular, and that's using a heat exchanger or califier type heaters. These capture the heat from an inboard engine via a heat exchanger. So as long as your engine is running, you have free hot water. But again, this means starting your engine and letting it heat up every time you want to take a shower. Now, there are combination units that have an electrical element as well as a heat exchanger. The idea behind these is simply use the motor when you're away from the dock and shore power when you're tied up. If you have a generator that is quieter and more fuel efficient than your main engine, you could use that instead. I have seen some models that run on fuel when the engine isn't running, but these seem to be very few and far between. In fact, if you know of one, could you please attach a link in the comments below? I'd really appreciate it. The last option is a diesel hot water heater. Having as many systems run off the same fuel can be a huge bonus. Plus, diesel is available everywhere, including in a lot of marinas. Now, there are different types of these water heaters, and a few options can be combined with your boat heating. The first type we will discuss is the simplest. This is an add-on if you already have a basic diesel hot water heater. It requires you to have a Y diverter so that when you run the heater in the summer, it diverts the hot air outside the boat. Other than that, these bobble hot water heaters are fairly simple. They take hot air and run it through a mini radiator to heat the water. The next type is the combined. These units produce both hot air and hot water. There are a few basic types, but most common are the Webasto and its Chinese knockoffs, and the Wallace type. Both basically do the same thing. These are more expensive option, but having them combined can kill two birds with one stone. The last option is, if you're already using a hydronic heating system, and that is to have a heat exchanger to create hot water off of that. A hydronic system is basically what you would find in older houses. You'd have a boiler that boils water or glycol. The fluid then gets pumped through radiators around your house or building to heat it. Except these are a lot more compact. But the concept is still the same. To get hot water off of one of these systems, you will need to install a heat exchanger, which in most cases is similar to a califier. This is similar to how you would use your engine to heat or create hot water. In closing, whether you use a simple or complex system, there are a lot of options from fairly cheap to extremely expensive. Simpler systems cost less and are more reliable, where the more complex systems are easier to use and can give you the same comforts you would get in a house. All you can do is figure out what works best in your situation, do the research, and look at all the different options, and figure out what would work best for you. If I missed any types, or if you have any thoughts or ideas about this subject or ideas for future subjects that I have not covered, please let me know in the comments below. I always love hearing from you. And thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video series on living aboard a small boat. If you have, then please subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Also, I included links for all the past videos in the description below.